Saubo Jassi and Vanja Milinkovic-Savic could be hot on Leeds United's radar in the coming week. Gustavo is making huge progress towards a Premier League transfer. Digne, Nikola Krstovic deals continue to trickle on, and Callum Wilson is still lingering along in the background. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JT, and welcome back to another episode of South Stand Signings. This is because we go through everything happening in and around the world of Leeds United, and we have a little talk about it. And the first story we're going to be talking about is going to take us over to Portugal, to the Primeira Liga, and this is regarding Saubo Jassi, an 18-year-old right-back who is starting to earn big reputation in Portugal. Jassi, who will turn 19 in July 10th, and this is where things get a little bit confusing if you are a Leeds fan, completed a transfer from Alverca to CD Santa Clara 3 days ago, signing a 3-year contract with Santa Clara, but his future is already a hot topic in scouting circles across Europe. Now, I've heard of quick movements, and then there's quick movements. Bloody heck, 3 days in the booking, and he's already potentially looking like he could be moving elsewhere in the not-so-distant future. Portuguese giants Benfica and Sporting Club Portugal have been following Jassi closely since last season and continue to monitor his development. Leeds and Brentford have also been impressed by the Guinea-Bissau defender and have recently taken concrete steps to gather more information about him. Leeds and Brentford scouts are admirers of Jassi and believe he could develop into a top player in the future. Now, his goal currently is to make his debut for Santa Clara, which you'd expect considering he signed for them 3 days ago. So this is a very interesting one, but if there was any truth to this, all I could potentially see is Leeds buying him and loaning him back to Santa Clara and having some sort of negotiation deal where if he gets a certain amount of goals or does a certain amount of something, Leeds will come in and trigger an option to, but we would have bought him at that point. Yeah, the whole thing is very, very confusing, and until more information comes out, this is one just to keep on the back burner, just in case you ever see his name popping up in the coming weeks and months, just to have a little think about it. And of course, they do want to get him in there so they can qualify for the Europa Conference League. Now, our next story is discussing Sergej Milinkovic-Savic's relative, Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, who, unlike the central midfielder in Serie A, is actually a 6'8" monstrosity of a goalkeeper, currently applying his trade at Torino, who Leeds United, of course, have a very strong history with, we say, if you look at the old Massimo Cellino days. According to reports in Italy, the cost of the transfer coming to light, there is a cost of the transfer coming to light, which is regarded to be around £16.8 million, which is his exit clause. Now, being 28 years of age, this could be one that kind of scratches your head, and you don't really think the 49ers will trigger this move. Now, granted, goalkeepers have a little bit of a longer lifespan when it comes to their age and when they hit their peak than outfield players, especially nippier players who rely more on acceleration and physical capabilities opposed to a 6'8" beast of a goalkeeper. But you would be getting rid of a goalkeeper in his young 20s who could, if he did develop in Ilan Meslier, be a 50-60 million pound transfer if he really kicked on in the way people believed he could have, for a 28-year-old for 16.8 million pounds. Napoli were reported set to sign the 19-time capped international in their pursuit. Very vague links. Napoli were the front runners looking for his signature, but due to the fact that they didn't really want to pursue that or push that, probably because of his age and the pretty high fee, this will be Leeds' record transfer of this window for a 28-year-old goalkeeper. It does look like they aren't really looking for that, and Leeds have an option to snag in. Now, whether he'll want to move to the Premier League could be pretty lucrative for him and a new challenge at his age. So I think it's something to definitely keep your eye out on, but Leeds are still kind of ambling around, negotiating, looking at quite a few names, so we haven't pinned him down just yet. Now, someone who we have pinned down for a long time is Gustavo, who has made his desire to join a Premier League club very, very, very key. There were offers from abroad, offers from Serie A potentially for his services, which, you know, I think really run that league ragged with his pace and tenacity, considering it's a slightly slower pace league. You could argue he is someone who fits more into the English football style because of his tenacity and the way that he plays, though. And it does seem like he is very keen on a move back to the Premier League as opposed to moving overseas. He likes the division, and Leeds United are the front runners. We've been after him for a good few years. Since the Coventry days when we first got relegated, we were after him, and it is a move which I think a lot of us will be quite happy with. He is proven he can do it in the Premier League, and I think the guy is just different quality. Personally, I think he is a real jewel in the crown of that Sheffield United side, and even the Championship last year, and someone who I would love to sign. But let me know if you guys think I'm off pace on that one. Now, someone who's a little bit less known to a lot of you would be Nikola Krstovic, the Montenegro international. And this is a very, very interesting story which has come out earlier today, that Leeds are to have a £25.8 million Krstovic bid accepted, with auction now underway. Now, this is very contradicting to stories that we heard yesterday saying that he wasn't interested. He, you know, personal terms, he favour a move. He wanted to move elsewhere in Serie A. He didn't really want to move over to Leeds United. And now they're reporting that he is set to land a £25.8 million transfer. Now, this £25.8 million fee is one that is a little bit interesting, because there are varying reports of around the 25 to 25.5, 25.6 million pounds. Now, MOT Leeds reported that Leeds have agreed a 25.5 million pound fee with Lecce and offered a contract which would give him around 1 million pounds a year, which is around 20,000 pounds a week. 1 million pounds a year sounds a lot higher, but when you chunk it down to 20,000 pounds a week, that is not a lot of money, considering the money we were splashing out when we first got promoted last year. You had players on, Patrick Bamford on 70, 80 grand a week. Burpo on 60 grand a week. I don't even want to know how much Rodrigo Moreno was on, how many hundreds of thousands of pounds a week that was. So £20,000 a week for a £25 million signing. Not quite the allure of Premier League wages that he would potentially be expecting to come to Leeds. Other outlets have echoed this, suggesting they are willing to get to his £25.5 million asking fee. The Yorkshire Evening Post reports that the club is not currently in direct talks for Krstovic, dismissing some transfer claims as premature, though Lecce's valuation still sits around the £25.5 million mark. Apparently, according to Sportsmold, there's an agreement in principle between the clubs, which would be around €23 million, around £19.6 million, although personal terms are yet to be finalised. And then there's also other reports from Leeds United News stating that Krstovic reports himself favouring to remain in Italy, leaning towards Roma or AC Milan, and isn't sold on the idea of a move to Leeds United just yet. So there are a lot of contradicting reports around this move. So right now, it's not one that I would be sat there like waiting, when's Krstovic coming, when's Krstovic coming, when's Krstovic coming, because it's one that's a little on the back burners for me. There's too many contradicting views. Now, just a little look at Nikola Krstovic, by the way. There was, you know, if you just look at some of these stats, there's been a lot of people about him underperforming in XG, potentially leading him to be an unreliable goal scorer in what is a very cutthroat league like the Premier League. But if you actually delve into the stats here, 35 appearances 2 seasons ago in which he underperformed his XG by 4.62, and he underperformed his non-penalty XG by 3.26. Now, you look at this year where he's actually improved his goal output to 11 and his assists to 5. He has actually increased his XG to goal ratio massively as well, with his XG being only underperformed by 1.05 and his non-penalty XG only being underperformed by 0.68. His expected assists as well are completely flying this year. He's overperforming in his expected assists, which is very good if you're teeing up players like Dan James and, well, we don't really have many other top wingers, around him right now. I thought we were going to bring a little bit more depth in there. But he is overperforming his expected assists and only slightly underperforming his XG, showing that he is on a scope of development. And just the fact that he was able to become that much more clinical and that much more of a provider in 1 year, could you imagine what he could potentially develop into next year and the year after that? There is an argument to be had that maybe he needs more time in Italian football for that, because he is starting to grow in that league, but that's another argument to have. Now, apparently, according to the Football Insider, Leeds United are still toying around for Josh Sargent, which you guys, I know from speaking to you in recent weeks, are really not keen on, and I'm not really keen on him, and he is one of multiple targets for Daniel Farke. But, I mean, if we are going to go in for Gustavo Hamer, do you really want to bring players in? That's a bit of a risk, in my opinion. A huge risk, not a bit of a risk, and one in which I don't think is the answer for Leeds United. I mean, you can have a look at his goals and assists here and his XG, but it's the Championship. It's a different kind of caliber of competition, and I don't think we should be looking within that ballpark. Now, there are still reports circulating around Gabriel Goodmanson, who is being labelled as a potential replacement or a potential signing to bring in after the loss of Junior Firpo, but again, that is not picking up too much traction as of yet, and one that just is on Leeds United's radar. And to be honest with you, mate, he is nowhere near the caliber of Firpo. I still can't believe we let him go. We didn't have to pay a transfer fee for him. Like, why would they not just offer him more wages? I don't get it. Just give him the same deal you gave him last time. Because if you're going to spend, like, what, 60 grand a week, it is how much a year? £3 million a year? And you're saying if you're going to get someone that is going to be a serviceable left back in the division, you're going to bring someone in for at least £5 to £10 million, which is already way exceeding the transfer fees you would have paid for him. Even if you gave him a pay rise up to 100 grand a week. You know what I mean? You're still going to be spending more on wages and transfers over the long run. I don't understand it. And this is definitely not one that is licking my chops about it. More twists in the Josh Sargent move coming up here. And just finally, the last story of the day. Villa are ready to sell 2 left-backs as Leeds United show sources. Leeds United have shown a registered minor interest in Alex Moreno, who has been registered for a £10 million fee. And someone else would lick my appetite a little bit more would be Luca Digne, who is been on the books of Aston Villa since 2022. Of course, 31 years of age, but very experienced in English football and European football, and one that I would love to get over the table. It would soften the blow of the Firpo loss a little bit for me, but it is being reported that yet again we are going to be looking around a £10 million valuation for him, and it is early stages as of right now, but he's one that we could pick up for around £10 million. But let me know what you guys think about these deals down in the comments section down below. For now, I'll see you very, very soon. Au revoir, my brothers and my sisters.